Laughing is like the natural reaction to thinking, actually,
Right.
if done right. Otherwise, it's pitchforks.
We saw the whole fiasco that happened. Even the
Yeah.
Democrats were like mortified of
Yeah.
his performance. Isn't that kind of elderly abuse to
Yes,
have
it's
someone
complete
like
elderly
that?
abuse. It's complete elder abuse. My wife's never going to blow me again if I vote for Trump. So, which is a lot of it, by the way, but that's a whole other topic.
We could do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah. I am a firm
Yeah.
believer. It's the blowjob theory. I've put this theory out there.
Did you? It's
Yeah.
a real theory?
Yes, that there are a huge percentage of men
Yeah.
like blowjobs. This doesn't matter gay or straight. Everyone likes a blowjob. And some people like giving them to, but everyone likes getting a blowjob, right? And if you know that if your wife knows you vote for Donald Trump, you're getting 10% less blowjobs, or your blowjobs are cut off in half, you are not going to do it.
So first of all, before we start this podcast,
Yes.
Well, actually, that's not true. We start this podcast on the right foot by taking these shots. They're by Magic Mind, and they're very, very good for your focus, productivity, and being super alert.
Okay.
And I'm not a drinker. Are you a drinker?
I like tequila. Do we count that as drinking?
Well, tequila is actually alcohol, so yes, it is actually considered drinking.
It's agave.
It
It's 100% blue agave.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, this is not tequila or agave.
Yes.
This is a healthy.
You got some decent tequila in there. You may not be drinking it, but I saw what's going on in
Oh.
your little liquor cabinet over there.
You want to hear the funniest thing before we take these shots is there's so much alcohol in this house. You would think that I was like an alcoholic for 30 years, and my husband, neither one of us even like drink alcohol, but people keep on bringing us that tequila. What's it called? That
Clase
bottle?
Azul.
Yeah,
Clase Azul. Yeah.
I have so much of it.
Yeah.
I'm like basically giving it away by the box.
Clase Azul is the gateway tequila. You give that to anyone that drinks anything else. I've done this a million times because, I have a lot of conservative friends that
Yeah.
only drink whiskey, and they think if you don't only drink whiskey or bourbon, somehow you're gay or weird. So I've given them tequila, and that's the thing that then opens up a whole wider world to them.
Really?
Yeah,
So
that bottle particularly.
That particular bottle,
Clase
right?
Azul Reposado, yeah. Which actually, although I do love it, is not the best tequila out there.
okay,
It's not made the best way. There's additives, etc. I'm actually making a tequila. It's coming out in September.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's so funny. So first of all, I used to drink. I mean, I'm hardly an expert in this, but what's that one that George Clooney and Randy Gerber?
Casamigos, which also
Casamigos.
is not the best tequila by far, but you have put the name George Clooney on the bottle, and you can sell the company for $500 million.
100%.
It's not terrible. I'm not
750
saying
million,
it
by
was
the
it
way.
750.
Yeah, it
I
was
was only off by
750.
250.
Yeah, just a little. But he, like Randy Gerber, him, and I think a couple other people, of course. I don't know who else, but everyone thought that was a premium product because of George Clooney, but it was probably not even a premium product at all.
It's not really premium in any way. It's perfectly fine. It's not.
Is it like Patron? What's better, Patron or?
Well, there's many levels of Patron. It depends on each one. Like
Silver
the Casamigos Mezcal, I actually think is pretty decent. Blanco is just Blanco. You really can't screw it up. But Reposado, that's what I'm making, which is aged 3 months, is a little more complex to make. And then Añejo, which is a year, or there's super Añejos or extra Añejos that are a year plus. They're sort of more easy to make because you're really just aging them for a long time. So I like Reposados because it's like right in between both. And I don't think the Casamigos Reposado is particularly good.
I love this. You like know what you're talking about.
I do know what I'm talking about.
Okay,
you
so
could probably put a little of this in my tequila, which I can't tell you the name yet. It's not public yet.
Oh, you
But
can't
you'll
tell
find
me.
out. We're going to announce it, I think, on September 3rd.
Really?
Yeah.
Hopefully you sell it for $1 billion like all these other companies, or
We'll see.
750.
We'll see. It's a passion project at the moment, so we'll see.
I love that. Okay, so wait, let's just do this shot.
Yes.
I want to know more. Okay, so what we do here, we
Is
shake
this going to
it.
explode on me in any way?
It might. And you're wearing a really
I got
nice
a
white
shirt.
I
I'm
don't
going to
want you
see
to
Bill
ruin it.
Maher later. It's
I
my only
know.
outfit I got on
Bill
me.
Maher, if he shows up all messy, you can blame me. Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers. And then we just
One shot.
just one shot.
One shot.
Mm-hmm. Or two if you're me. But
Oh, that's pretty good. Oh yeah, that's good.
It's amazing,
Is there
right?
melon in there? What is that at the end?
it's ashwagandha. It's like it's a lot of adaptogens. It's like a nootropic.
But what is that sweetness right at the end?
I don't know. Look, read it because I'm blind right now. I can't see.
I literally just got at 48. I got glasses like 3 months ago for the first time in my life.
All of us are, honey.
Is there writing on this? I don't know what's going
Isn't
on
that
here.
funny? I had perfect vision until about 6 months ago.
Yeah,
You
me too. Me too.
Crazy,
Perfect
right?
vision my entire life.
Me too.
How
I
old are you?
Same age as you.
40. We're
Yeah.
both 48. We both got glasses about 6 months
Is that
ago.
crazy?
Weird. Whoa.
Oh. I know. It's a little strange, isn't
That
it?
is-
and
that
I
is
can't
odd.
read one ingredient on this
Well,
thing.
I see it says it's subtly sweet, so it does agree with
Well,
my,
it's subtle. What does it say? God bless you.
You got
Can-
12 magical ingredients.
How are you reading this? I see
Boosted energy.
matcha green tea. I
Yeah.
see vanilla. I think I see vanilla. You know what I do? This is what I do, Dave. I'm going to show you a trick.
Oh,
To
God.
anyone who's
No,
listening
I
to
can't be
this,
part of this. I would literally rather drive off a ditch than turn on the camera,
and then
like flashlight at a restaurant. Yeah,
I know, but
won't.
this is what you have to do.
Yeah.
I take a picture of it and then I read the picture. Organic agave, passion fruit.
Taking a picture. Then,
Yeah, I take a picture of the thing and then I enlarge it so I can see the words.
Yeah, that's like a bridge too far. That's why I got the glasses because I think I was at Hillstone in Miami, and which is lit kind of dimly.
Yeah.
And I love Hillstone.
Me too, I love
And I was just
Hillstone.
like, I know this menu, and I still can't see it. And then I was about to do the flashlight thing, and I was like, no, I'm not in Del Boca Vista just yet. Like, no.
Why won't you do the flashlight though?
No,
I mean,
because
that's-
it's a
a sign
concession.
that your age. I know.
Next thing you know, you have to move your table because it's a little too close to the window, and then you have a problem with this or that. It's too bright. It's too.
Have you heard the joke? The waiter walks up to a table full of Jewish people. By the way, we can say this because we're Jewish people.
Yes.
And says, "Is anything okay?
Yeah. That's good.
Is anything
Yeah,
okay?"
yeah.
But the funny thing is, I think it's really kind of sad because I cannot concede to it either. Like, even though I have these readers, I will not bring them anywhere. I'll barely ever wear them. I'd rather walk around blind walking into things.
Here, you want to
because-
see my glasses? I'll put my glasses
Yeah.
on for a moment. You can see if you can judge whether you think they're okay or not.
See, you look good in the
What
glasses.
do you think? Yeah.
Yeah,
Do
who
I-
makes those? Those are-
Do I look smarter? I can't say it on
You look
camera
really-
because then other people are going to buy them, and you know.
You don't. You want to be unique
I'll tell.
and
Yeah,
original.
I'll tell you later, but.
Okay,
yeah.
I think they're Warby Park. No,
They're
I'm
not
no.
Warby Parker. No.
Are they Caddis? That's all I wanted to know.
No, they're
Okay.
not. You could try
Oh,
one
Prada?
more. Nope.
Okay.
Nope. That's it. Can't
Okay,
do
fine,
anymore.
fine. But they're really those actually.
And you
look
see
good
when
on
I
you.
took them off, that it looked like I was like really like.
Yeah, well, you look very
Oh, look
distinguished
at
with
you.
them.
That's quite a thought that you're having.
Yeah, I know.
Tell me more.
I'll tell you much more without the glasses, actually. But isn't that weird? Like, what happens when you turn a certain age where you then become blind? I don't get it.
The fact that we both made it to 48 without doing that, from what I understand, is like very,
deal.
very, big
guess
deal,
it's true.
impressive. But now it's like I only need them for that. It's really just for reading right in front of me. And
That's me too.
And also, I had a running joke on my show for years. We had a fake pair of Warby Parker thick rim glasses
Really?
because the joke was that newscasters, they all do it. Anderson Cooper, when he wants you to think something is important, puts them on, or when he's emotional, he takes them off, and they all do it. Don Lemon did it.
It's so
All of
true,
them do it.
yes.
So we had this running joke where I was doing it all the time. So now I feel even on my show when I need to read something, I can't put the glasses on because then I've become what I always mocked.
Exactly. That you always mocked. And
So
that-
I just can't see anything. It's fine. It's fine.
well, right. So you're blind like me. Can you see me right now?
Yes. No. It's literally.
reading. I know,
It's this
I
to
know.
this,
Trust
and it's
me,
really
I know.
it's only in a dark restaurant, really. Except that this is
Sure.
printed extremely tiny.
I know. Well,
It's a small bottle, small print.
you and I have the same, like, obviously, like, blind problem or whatever, like, eye problem or eyesight problem.
It's the basic thing.
The
Like it
basic.
is like the girl at the place was like, this is the most basic, simple thing, and most people have this in their 20s.
I know. What's
So-
the problem is, like, it's a sign of being old, though. I do think so.
Well, I mean, everything is a sign of aging to some extent.
Yeah.
Like, if things start working a little less or move a little less or whatever.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
But for the
That's true.
rest, I think we're both doing okay for 48.
No, not bad. I mean,
your
I'm
friends
okay.
look like my friends. I mean, most of the people that I grew up with, not looking so great.
You know,
No offense,
honestly,
guys.
exactly. I think for in the grand scheme of things, I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you seem
yeah.
like you're doing okay.
Yeah, it's
You know?
fine. Yeah.
But the eyesight is just like a mental stuff, like a mental thing.
Yeah.
Okay, now, by the way, I didn't even say who's here. This is
Oh.
Dave Rubin. There'll be like a proper intro,
Okay.
I hope.
Yes.
But this is Dave Rubin. He is the guy behind the Rubin Report. And, well, you know what's interesting? Why don't you give your bio? Because it's a very interesting bio. You were a comedian, you're a political analyst or commentator.
Yeah.
You have a very zigzaggedy, interesting bio. So
Yeah.
why don't you tell everyone who you are?
I was born in Brooklyn in 1976. We lived there for 3 years, moved to Long Island, ended up going to SUNY Binghamton, State University of New York at Binghamton, which is now like a Hamas hotbed, unfortunately. But back then, you just smoked pot and you made it through after 4 years. It was pretty great. And then I started doing stand-up right after school, and that was really, my friends were just funny. Everyone was funny. That was the language we spoke in. We were funny. We played basketball, video games, and smoked pot. Like, that was
Yeah.
it. And I always thought somebody was going to be a comedian. And then a week after college, I was like, I need a job. I guess I'll go be a comedian. and I was on stage at the New York Comedy Club. It was, I think it was the end of May 1998. And I did pretty well. And then I was like, all right, I'll be a comedian. And in my mind, I thought that meant like, I don't know, you work for a year or two and then you have like you make like a living off that, which in retrospect is completely insane, right? I mean, guys work in clubs for years and years and years and barely make anything or actually lose money because of the time you have to invest to be in it, or nobody really wants to be a road comic. And also back then, 98, it's 26 years ago, which is also kind of nuts.
Yeah.
Like the world was very, very different. It was way pre-iPhone. It was kind of pre-internet in any way that we all remember the internet. Guys weren't getting sitcoms anymore. Like the whole idea of doing stand-up was like you do stand-up for a while. Like from our day, it was you do stand-up for a while, you get on Johnny Carson, you have 5 minutes. If he likes you, you sit with him and then you get your show. Like that's what happened to Tim Allen and Roseanne Barr and literally everybody, Jerry Seinfeld, everybody. But by the time I started doing it, those shows were disappearing.
Yeah,
like Friends was wrapping up at that point. Seinfeld was already over and reality TV was kicking in. So then the best you could get really as a comic was to be a game show host or host of a reality TV show. So the guys that were sort of the generation ahead of me in the clubs, like Colin Quinn and that crew, they were stuck in the clubs. So my generation was like the first generation that like couldn't get out of the clubs. Anyway, I'm telling you all that because then eventually I was like, all right, well, this isn't, I'm a good comic, but this isn't getting me anywhere. I did road stuff, but that's just miserable. You're in the middle of nowhere and it's horrible and you're barely paid and all that. And then eventually I heard of this thing called podcasting. There was a little more ability to do video online. And that's kind of where I shifted more. But I was always doing like political stuff and cultural commentary.
Well, I find sometimes that some of the smartest people I know are comedians, right? Stand-ups, because you have to have they have a great you're observational a lot, the ones who are good anyway, and they have a great perspective, and they have to understand current topical things, right? And be funny about it, right?
You have to look at the world in like a tilted way,
yeah,
and see reality. And as Oscar Wilde said, if you're going to tell people the truth, you better be funny or they're going to kill you. So it's like that really is it. Or comedy is tragedy plus time. Like if you look at things, you see a darkness in the world, or at least the world the way it is. And then if you can apply like some lens to that, that will allow people to see it and think a little bit. I mean, that's what laughing is. Laughing is like the natural reaction to thinking, actually,
right?
If done right. Otherwise, it's pitchforks,
Right, exactly. But you said so. Basically,
can I drink this hydration water now, or do we have to wait for a certain point in the show, or because I am a little thirsty, but I don't want to.
You're hilarious. You can drink whatever you like.
Okay. I didn't know if we were gonna. Here. I didn't know if we have to cheers to this also, or are you going to douse me in this, or what?
Well, this is Life Force water, which is not. It's just hydrogen. It's hydrogenated or hydrogen water. But no, you can do whatever you want. This was kind of like cutesy magic mind.
I've been drinking regular water like a sucker. I feel incredible.
You feel so much more hydrated now that you're drinking the hydrogen water?
It's like the Capri Sun of water.
It is. It's actually it is in the Capri Sun type of packaging.
Yeah.
Wait. So, do you think of yourself then as a comedian, or what do you consider yourself? A political commentator? Do you think of yourself as a political commentator?
Yeah, I guess now I'm mostly a political commentator. And then when I'm on a book tour or I open for Jordan Peterson for a year, like I can still do stand up in that way, but it's more just like now.
So you opened for Jordan Peterson?
Yeah, for a year and a half. We did about 120 shows in 20 countries for the first book, for 12 Rules for Life. Yeah. That literally changed my life. Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you get that? How did that work? Because he's not a comedian by any stretch, but he actually, when I went to U of T in Toronto, he was a professor there.
Oh, wow. You went there.
Yeah. And I'm Canadian.
Yeah.
And he was a professor there. Like he's an academic, right? I mean, that's what he is. And he just became like a massive like household name.
Yeah. Did you take any of his classes?
No, I didn't.
It's a shame because, if you've seen any of those, because some of those classes are online still.
Yeah, I know.
And if you watch, you can see the brilliance, you can see the beginning of him. It's the origin story, but the way he's put it together now over the course of, 3+ decades is absolutely incredible. But the way that happened, it was actually a joke. The way that happened was I had Jordan on my show a couple times, and this is around 2017 or so. And he came to my house, and my studio was in my house, in my garage in Sherman Oaks. And I had him and Ben Shapiro on the show together. And that night, first off, it was we did a live show for about 2.5 hours. It was our most viewed show ever at that time. The live stream was the most concurrent
Wow,
views
yeah.
and all that stuff. And it was also, if you are familiar with some of the stuff that was happening at that time, there was this thing called the IDW, or they called it the so-called IDW. It was sort of me and Rogan and Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson, all these people that were like sort of podcasters, science people, intellectuals that were just having conversations
Yeah.
that were not being had mainstream. And this thing was really blowing up. And that night, it was in Los Angeles, and that night Jordan was going to do his first ever theater show. They were just doing a test at the Orpheum downtown just to see if could this clinical psychologist who talks about Peter Pan and all this other stuff, could he draw a crowd, and what would he do for an hour and a half? So the show ended, and I said to Jordan, literally, he was walking out the door of my house, and I was like, and it was kind of a joke. I was like, hey, if you want me to come tonight, and I'll crack a couple jokes about lobsters. He was doing a lot of stuff about lobsters and why they sort of crawl to the top of the pot. I was like, I'll crack a couple jokes, if you want, no problem. And he's like, yeah, why don't you come down? And I opened the show, about 10 minutes of silly jokes about Jordan and about me and whatever else was going on in the world, and absolutely crushed it. Jordan then did an hour and a half of his usual brilliance, which he had never really done in that forum before, like a real theater situation. And all the CAA guys were there. There were like 10 guys there, all dressed CAA suits and that whole thing. And they immediately after walked up to me and they were like, this was incredible. We're putting him on tour. You want to open for him? Let's figure it out. And yeah. And it all started right then and there.
Are you serious?
And then a month later, we were at the Beacon Theater in New York City, which was the theater that I always wanted to perform at my entire life, because I lived on the Upper West when I was doing stand-up, and I always used to walk by the Beacon thinking one day I'll perform here, and that's where the tour kicked off. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, so how many people showed up at the Orpheus at that night?
It was sold out, so my guess it was about 3,000 people. And then we did shows, really ranging. It was all theaters, like it wasn't clubs, it was theaters. So I would say the smallest ones would be about 2,200, and then the big ones were probably about 8 or 10,000, something like that. And he's done bigger theaters since, because he's way bigger now than he was even then.
So I was going to say, when did he become popular?
He became popular, I can tell you exactly. It was the fall of 2016. It was started bubbling up into the internet sphere around September, October 2016, because if you remember, there was a bill in Canada, you probably remember as a Canadian, it was Bill C-16 about gender pronouns, and potentially you could be put in jail or fined and all that. And he was one of the first people talking about it. And then once people started hearing him talk about it, then they started diving into some of his other stuff that he had online. And then, of course, just the way he speaks. And then they started realizing, boy, this guy's not just some crazy person talking about gender pronouns. He has a 30-year history as a psychology, clinical psychologist, and a professor and all this stuff. And there's such a breadth of knowledge there. And it's so cool, actually, every now and again on YouTube, like one of those videos will pop up from way back when.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, first off, that I had anything to do with this adventure, like the little footnote that I am in his adventure, but also to see the way it has grown and grown and grown, and the amount of people. Trust me, we did over 100 shows. Like the amount of people that I saw that he got off drugs, mended relationships with their parents, got into better marriages, resolved things with their children, like got better jobs, like whatever the thing. This man solved it night and night again. It was incredible, and people crying in the crowds, and it's just amazing. Yeah, oh yeah.
Because I was going to say, my next question was, what does he do on what is his not shtick is the wrong word, but like what does he do on stage? Does he just riff, speak? Like what, or does he bring people on and try to solve their problems? Like what is the thing?
It's really fascinating actually, and they've taped a lot of them, but to be part of it was really incredible, because he would basically, the idea of the tour was that it was a book tour, so it was supposed to be about 12 rules for life, right? So there were 12 rules that he applied to life, and if you follow these rules, it'll in general make your life a lot better.
Right.
And it was really interesting what he did, because most people that go on a book tour, you pretty much have your stump speech. It's like a political speech. You have your 45 minutes. This is what the book's about. Here's my favorite anecdote. This is what it was like writing it. But Jordan did something different every single night. So some nights he would talk about one rule, an hour and a half on just one rule. Some nights he would go through all 12 rules. Some nights he wouldn't talk about the book at all. It would be like, oh, today the New York Times called me the head of the alt-right. Let's talk about that. Like,
wow.
Yeah. And then the really cool part, though, was that, we'd be in different cities every night, and I would get to see that he would sort of tell a story, and it was like choose your own adventure, because the next night he would just start from where he left off the night before, But I basically, me and the tour manager were the only two people that got to see the full story for the year and a half, where he would go as far as he could with some thought that he had about something, right?
Right.
About religion, about the nature of reality, whatever it might be. And then the next night he would just pick up at that point and start going again. So it was unbelievably impactful for me to watch. And it made me a much better speaker also, because I learned to not, even though I knew this to some extent, to watch him go on stage. And, he's a master of pauses. So, you can see him thinking. He'll start talking.
Yeah.
And then he just kind of waits for a second. And I can see it. I know him well enough now. He's going through the Rolodex to figure out where he wants to go next. And he's mapping out all these different things. And what I realized was, when I go on a book tour or whatever I'm doing in terms of public speaking, like, I just map a little something at the beginning, and I never give the same speech twice, ever, ever, ever. And I try to see where it goes. And, sometimes it goes in a really different way than I would have intended, but I'm never afraid of that. And I think that's really like the key if you're a public speaker, to be able to get up there, be present in front of those people. And if they can see you like working through something, that is way better than, here's the stump speech. I could have just handed this to you on a piece of paper. Thanks for your $45.
That's so true. You know what? You just that just kind of like resonated with me. I did my second TED talk I did on last week, actually.
Nice.
In Houston. And it gave me so much anxiety and stress to plan it, do it. Like, I get really, really scared and nervous, especially because I feel like I don't trust myself. I don't trust myself to go up there and be able to just
That's the exact thing. Yeah.
And even with, and then what happens is you prepare, and because now you're preparing, it feels very stock. It doesn't feel authentic. It feels very, it just doesn't feel right. And it's stale. It just feels very stale.
Yeah.
And so how do you feel? Like, I don't know. This is
everyone has a different way to do it, right? So like for me, if someone says to me, you're going to give an hour talk about something, usually
what do you normally talk about, by the way? What do they usually
talk about? Politics, or I talk about big tech, or I talk about my own political evolution, or whatever's going on in the world that
But normally,
day.
what do you normally get hired to speak about? The number one thing? Politics?
They usually don't ask me to talk about anything specific.
Oh, they
it's
don't.
usually just kind of like what we're bringing you here.
Yeah.
Like, do what you
Pick
do.
what you
Every
want.
now and again, it's something specific. Like tonight, we want you to really talk about free speech or big tech or something
Right.
like that. But usually, it's just like, I don't know, I guess I hit like a nice moment where it's like they are just inviting me, and then they trust that I'll
trust
come
that
up
you're-
with something. I never really thought about
They
it that way,
unleash
but I
you
guess
to the
that
people,
I guess
yeah.
that is a nice thing that has happened over
Right.
time. But for me, the way I do it is I very rarely think about what I'm doing until about 5 minutes before.
You don't get nervous?
No, because I've done it forever. And I always felt as a comic, I never got nervous as a comic because I was holding the mic. So like I used to see guys get heckled all the time and just fold, like completely sweating, complete disaster, like dying in a pool of their own filth. And I loved getting heckled because I was like, I have the mic. Like if I can't beat some drunk idiot while I'm literally standing there sitting, I'm on a stage, I'm holding the mic, I have the speaker. If I can't do that, then what the hell am I doing up here?
Right.
So I never feared that. I never feared it. So usually for me, but everyone operates differently.
Yeah.
For me, about 5 minutes before, I'm like, all right, well, how do I want to start? That's the most important thing. Like, so you get that initial connection. And just, how do I want to start? What do I kind of want to do in the middle? And how do I want to end? And then everything else is just getting to that point. And then that really is it. So I don't,
Wow. And so when you opened for Jordan, did you have the same thing that you did every night, or did you always do something differently?
That was like a little bit of blend of both because I felt that I was there to support him actually.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really about me. I wanted to be as funny as possible for that like 10 or 15 minutes up top, because then he does serious stuff, like
Right.
literally people crying in the crowd. I saw incredible things. The best story that I can tell you about that is that we were in Dublin, and when you do these big theaters, you as the performer, you don't walk out the front because everyone's standing there at the end. So they usually have like a side door, which is kind of hilarious because then they put you out in a side door in like a little alley, which if anyone's waiting for you is not great. But anyway, it was about 1 a.m. after he does the meet and greet, signs all the books. We had just flown in that morning. It was a long day, jet lag. I don't even remember where we were, in another country the night before, like all of that stuff. Long day, and we get out into the alley, and it's really dark, which is like a little light in the distance, and it's me and Jordan's wife, Jordan, the tour manager. So just four of us were out. He didn't have security at the time. It was very, very different. And we see these two guys about 50 feet away from us, and it seems like maybe they're fighting or something. We can't quite tell. And then they start walking towards us really quickly. And we all kind of were like, uh-oh, what's going on here? And then as they got closer, we could see they both had been hysterically crying. One of the guys was about 55. One of the guys was probably about 25. And it turned out they were a father and son who had had a falling out like 5 years before, had not seen each other in 5 years, both read the book independently, came to the speech by themselves, saw each other at the show, and made amends right there. I just got chills telling you that. And we saw it. They told us that. Jordan began to cry. His wife began to cry. John, the tour manager, began to cry. I'm not much of a crier, but like something was going on there. Like that type of thing. Incredible.
That is incredible. I mean, I liked him from jump. Like I thought he was. I loved his way. I'm actually a little surprised. I didn't realize he was like. I never expected him to become as popular as he did.
I saw things. We were in Amsterdam. A guy with a yellow vest that was doing the. The gurney, what do they call it? The thing that goes to the plane, not the gurney, the whatever.
Oh, the air control guy?
Yeah, not the guy on the ground, but the guy that's like the thing that connects to the plane, the airwalk, or whatever it is. Yes. Whatever that thing is. He literally saw Jordan and ran onto the plane and was like going crazy. You changed my life. I got this job because you. The pilot kind of realized what was happening because he probably could have gotten a lot of trouble. Yeah. And it was like he was like, thank you. You're not allowed to be here. But I over and over again I saw that. But anyway, you asked me about the process with that. So for Jordan's shows, I didn't always do something different every night because I wanted it to be as happy and fun as possible at the beginning so that he could then do his hour and a half. And then at the end, we did a half hour together, which was a Q&A that also I tried to make funny. Because my feeling was if I can get them laughing at the beginning, Jordan does something deep and powerful, which is what they're there for, but then leave on a good note. I wanted the end to always be funny so that they walk out. And I know that for the rest of their night or the next day, they're going to be thinking about all the things that Jordan said, not the jokes that I made. But if the feeling that they walked away with was like, wow, it was great, fun at the beginning, and I can't believe how much I laughed. And then at the end, there was this other, silly thing or whatever. So that's really
that's amazing. Yeah. Did you? Because what year did you say you started your podcast? YouTube channel.
The YouTube show started when I moved to LA in 2013.
2013.
Yeah, and then that whole year with Jordan was 2017. It was 17 into 18. Yeah.
So between 2013 and 2018, like how did you gain so much traction? Like did the Jordan thing really kind of help escalate your? Well,
it was kind of like it was going like that. Yeah. The Jordan thing blew it up for sure. But what happened even before that? Like a year before that was I was a lefty, I was a progressive, I was on the Young Turks, all of that stuff.
How did you go from liberal to where you are now? I want to ask you about that.
Well, I still consider myself, liberal in the truest sense of liberalism that Bill Maher is always trying to say I'm still a liberal. And I'm like, Bill, that may well be true, but you're just living in the wrong time now, which I'll discuss with him later tonight. We're always arguing that out. So in a perfect sense, I am still a classical liberal. My first book, Don't Burn This Book, was a defense of classical liberalism. I still agree with every single thing that I wrote out there. But unfortunately, defending my liberal values has become a conservative position. So that's why conservatives, ironically, are defending liberalism. But to explain that all the time over and over gets very confusing and lost in the weeds. So I don't bother saying I'm a liberal anymore. I don't mind if someone who understands what liberalism means, meaning individual rights and laissez-faire government and logic and reason and all of those things. I don't mind if someone says that to me.
Yeah.
But every now and again, someone will be like, "You're still a liberal," and I'm like, "Well, I'm not exactly sure you mean that the way that it really was intended to be." But you're a communicator. You can only spend so much time,
of course,
giving definitions to everybody. But what had happened around 2016, as I was waking up to the craziness of the left, because I was on the Young Turks and they were just nuts, and everybody that they disagreed with was a racist and blah, blah, and there was an unbelievable hatred of Israel, even back then, which I didn't really understand because it was the only place in the Middle East that had anything remotely close to their progressive values and all of that stuff. I did a video for PragerU. It was my first video, and it was called Why I Left the Left, which has now been seen like probably 50 million times or something. And what's interesting about it was just me explaining kind of the difference between progressivism and actual liberalism. And never in the video did I say I left the left. I still believed it's sort of Bill Maher. Now I was like, I am on the left. These people are crazy. I am trying to fight for, what's right here.
Right.
So when I woke up that morning, because you shoot those videos because they have to animate it and everything, they shoot those videos like 6 months before they come out. I don't even think I knew it was coming out that day. And I woke up that morning and I look at my phone and it says Dave Rubin, PragerU, Dave Rubin, Why I Left the Left. And I was pissed because I thought this is not right. I did not leave the left. This whole thing, like they've titled it in such a way because I didn't make up the title. I wrote the script, but I didn't title it. And I was pissed. And I think I was about to get on the phone with them. I was trying to figure out who to call or what, how you got to change this. And I went to the video on YouTube and it had already, within the first like 3 hours, it had like 10 million views.
In 3 hours?
Something like that. Don't quote me exactly on that. But basically within a day, it had 10 million views. But like that morning, I saw it just exploding, right? And I looked on Twitter and all these people are talking about it and everything. And I quickly looked at the comment section and I saw all of these people. And everybody was like, he's a liberal. It makes sense. Like these progressives are crazy and blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? Let me just leave the title. Let's just let it be. This thing's working and it's cooking. And then that was the next thing that really kind of blew things up. So my career was kind of like going like this. Then the Why I Left the Left video like really blew it up. Then Jordan, which was probably about a year after that, that really blew it up. And then there's been some other things since.
What are the other things that kind of, because you're like in the, like, why didn't you ever do the, like, Ben Shapiro, what's that thing called that what is he, what's the media company?
The Daily Wire.
Daily Wire. Yeah. But you're not a part of the Daily Wire, right?
I'm completely independent. Well, that was the other thing that along the way so I started at the Young Turks and then I was on Aura TV, which was a digital network created by Larry King, who became like not only a friend, but a mentor and like a bonus grandfather to me, which was absolutely amazing. And then I was at this other little startup for a few months called Riot. That just that was actually before.
I remember
Aura. That actually didn't. We just went in different directions. They decided to do like 3D video. I'm not even sure the company exists. So then I went over to Aura, and then from Aura, the show was really blowing up because now that Why I Left the Left video had come out and more people were starting to pay attention to me, I was finding the old school liberals. So that's where I interviewed Sam Harris for the first time, and I had Ayaan Hirsi Ali and Douglas Murray, who I'm sure you know is absolutely incredible. So I was finding like the people that I was simpatico with that I really like, and nobody was really talking to them in an honest way.
That's what's so interesting. Like going back to like 10 years ago, they weren't really in mainstream in the ether at all. Like you were kind of like doing these things that were very much like ancillary, but that now has become very mainstream.
Well, it's fun. It's kind of funny. It's sort of why I actually don't like interviewing as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Because everyone's kind of doing it now.
Yeah,
you're actually quite a good interviewer. It's very obvious to me from the beginning. You're fully listening, like you're engaged, like you're looking at me the whole time. You're not like staring at like what's the next question and everything. No. But like everyone's kind of doing it now. And it's not that makes me enjoy it less. It's just it doesn't feel as novel. So
it's not.
Phoenix, my producer sitting right here, he knows like we've shifted the show a little bit where we don't feel like we just have to get an interview for the sake of getting an interview. It's much more who do I want to talk to and why do I want to talk to them and all that kind of stuff. But the reason that I did the long form interview, which again now everybody does, but when I started doing that around 2015, it was really only me and Rogan online. And he was just starting. So this is sort of pre Joe Rogan, which nobody really remembers, but he was more Fear Factor Joe Rogan than Joe Rogan of now. And the reason I wanted to do it was I felt that everything was making people stupid. It was when Snapchat was huge and Vine. You remember Vine
I remember all of this.
Twitter?
Totally, yeah.
These 6-second videos, and everything was making people stupid. And I was like, all right, I'll do the reverse of that. And I always love Larry King. And I love that show. I love the way he interviewed. And I know people felt he was a softball interviewer or something. But I thought he was thoughtful and interesting and funny when he needed to be and everything else. And he let his guests talk. And that's really how I decided to do it. And clearly there was some kind of need for that.
And so I guess you must have been kind of, so there's two things. So why after Aura did you not do or go on the Daily Wire thing?
Because Daily Wire,
that would be perfect for you.
Daily Wire, I don't think had even started yet. So
basically, when did he start?
He started a little bit after that. Okay. I could be wrong. I'm not even sure. Well, it certainly wasn't the Daily Wire of
now.
of what it is
Yeah,
now. Like I
yeah.
don't think they had other personalities. Ben was kind of doing his own thing. He was with Breitbart at that point. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it was definitely pre Daily Wire for sure.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
basically, what happened was Aura. My show was really blowing up, and then there was Larry, and they had like 10 other shows, and the other shows were not doing well. You've never heard of any of them
Yeah.
or the hosts or anything. Actually, William Shatner had a show on there, but you've never heard of what the show was. And
I've heard of William
oh,
Shatner.
you've heard of William Shatner, but the point was they
Not
had
his show.
But
Yeah.
basically, my show was blowing up, and Larry obviously was the big name, and I think he was largely financially backing it as well. But the more that my show blew up, the more they wanted out of us, and the more that I felt I was supporting all of these little shows, and I was like, no, I don't want to be that. I want to either want to be on a network where there's 10 great all-star shows, and I'm trying to like force my way in, or I'll just go independent. And I chose the latter.
Oh, okay.
And I remember walking out of a meeting with one of the executives there one day, and they just like showed us a spreadsheet of like numbers they wanted us to hit and revenue to hit, and thinking, wait a minute, I'm the only one here who, besides Larry, who has a show that's working. Why are you demanding all of this of me when none of these guys can get 10 views?
Yeah.
And then I was like, we're going independent. And so we went independent, and for a little while, for about 4 months, I borrowed Roseanne Barr's studio. She has a studio in El Segundo, right by the airport in LA. We had become friends like a year before, built my set in her place. And then Roseanne, God bless Roseanne, she's obviously a little nutty, as she would admit. And doing business with her was rather difficult. So after 4 months, I was like, now I'm done. And then that was when we finally had saved up enough money, bought a house in Sherman Oaks, turned that into the garage, into the studio. And then the show exploded. That studio that you may remember, we moved in November 2016. Jordan, as I said, he was cooking September, October.
Yeah.
The first interview that I did when we moved into the house was Jordan on Skype, because we didn't even have internet yet. My studio wasn't built. I had to jack internet from my neighbor, and I have this you can find it online from November. It's the end of November 2006, or maybe beginning of November 2016, of me interviewing Jordan about C16 and Peter Pan and all this stuff. And the internet's horrible because it's scrambly and everything. And that really was kind of the beginning of all the stuff that now I guess people know of me. Yeah.
Because the Rubin report though on YouTube, how did you get, because I was thinking like you have like 2.5 million, 2.2 million or whatever subscribers on there.
Yeah.
Because is it harder now to gain traction, or like how did you, was it easier back then, or did you say like all those videos like why I left the left, or all the, is that what kind of helped
it all kind of
traction?
feel it. Actually, the thing you didn't ask me this, but the thing I'm like most proud of when it comes to numbers, and I try not to get lost in numbers at all, is that we have never put a dime into advertising ever.
It's all organic.
It is completely organic.
And
nothing.
it's so hard to grow on YouTube. It's so hard.
Well, to that point, I mean, I would suspect, I don't know because I'm not trying to build a channel now, but like
You're not?
No. I mean, I'm trying to continue to build my channel.
Right. Is it easier to build now because
no,
you have
I would
like
think
a base?
it's probably. My guess is it would be
you.
much harder. Well, no, now for me to continue to grow, I mean, every month we're breaking every record, every single month. It's crazy. My live streams are blowing up, and I don't say that to pat myself on the back. I say it out of like, I think we're genuinely doing something good, and we have a good team behind it, and it's important relative to the craziness of the world and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I suspect now, when I got on YouTube around 2013, it still was the Wild West. Nobody knew what it was really. People were doing videos, and then you could do a reaction video that would get put under the video, and it was like a whole different thing. And it was new, so nobody knew how to master the game. Right. Now there's a zillion companies that are there to master the game. Also, everybody and their brother wants to be a YouTuber now. So my general suspicion is, I mean, you've seen some new people get into the game now, usually because they're extremely well funded. They've done something else. They made it in some other world. Then they get on YouTube. They have enough money to put some rocket fuel on that.
Yeah. But that's what I was going to say. That's what I was wondering, because back then it had to be more organic. It was much more it's still the Wild West.
Yeah.
People still to this day have no idea how to break YouTube at all. But the people who I see are doing it, I'm not sure if it's just bots and people are just doing that, and or that it's just people who are very wealthy who are putting a shit ton of money in advertising and buying a shit ton of traffic. because it's so difficult.
I think there's probably every combination
Yeah.
of those things, but you know, even that sort of thing, like at some point it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
You know, it doesn't work at
Exactly.
some point. Like you can throw a gajillion dollars into something, you can get a certain amount of views
Yeah.
out of nowhere and all of that stuff. But like the longevity of it is that you're hopefully doing something good and worthwhile and everything else. So like when I see now my analytics guy is amazing, and when he shows us that every month we're just crushing it, and that our live streams now are getting hundreds of thousands of views a day. You know,
How
that's
often
the
do you do
live
live streams?
we're live every day at 11. So
Every day at
Monday through
11.
Friday at 11 for about an hour. We go against the View. So I like to think that the real divide in America is not left versus right or conservative versus liberal. It's Rubin Report viewers versus View crazy people. That's sort of the divide in
Seriously?
America. Well,
So no, not that. But so you go live, not that part. But no.
I mean, it's sort of, yes,
Yeah.
seriously, no, but yes.
No. What I mean is, you go. I didn't even know you did a live stream
Yeah.
every day
Yeah,
at
yeah.
11 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then how many people are like listening?
I mean, if
watching?
we looked at, he can pull up the numbers, but if we looked at our last 5 of them, I mean, I think one's got about 1 million views, one's got about 500,000 views, usually around 200,000 or 300,000.
Well,
It
so the
depends,
entire
yeah.
medium of like, just in terms of like,
And that's for an
media.
hour show. That's not, and our watch times are great also. So it's not like just people like clicking
Right.
in and then getting the hell out of there, which a lot of videos have.
That's what most people. Yeah, exactly. So you do this You're not doing it today, obviously.
We're traveling this week, but I'm doing a lot of these shows, and you know, we'll take a clip of this, and if you don't mind, we'll put that on the channel.
Please
And that,
do,
by the way,
if you
that'll
can
be
help
good.
me.
That'll be good for you too, of course. So we're trying. You know, the thing with YouTube is once you're in the game,
Yeah.
you have to stay in the game. So I mentioned to you about going off the grid for August.
Yeah.
When we started doing that years ago, I didn't put up anything for a month, and it crushes you. It completely ejects you from the algorithm, and then you basically have to spend 2 or 3 months just pushing back in so that you can get close to your numbers before. So now we have a whole system devised where I tape things beforehand. We do some prepackaged stuff and everything else,
Yeah.
because I would prefer not to 100%. I would prefer to. I take August off to keep my mind fresh and disconnect, and I think it's good for. I know it's good for me and everything else, and for what I do. I want to give that to my audience too, but we simply cannot do it.
Yeah.
Because we have to stay in the game, because otherwise it will literally cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh,
and it's not
easily.
even about the money. It's just that I want people to see my content. You know, like
You know what? That's interesting you said that, because like I was saying earlier, I finished the second TED Talk. My first TED Talk went viral, and it was crushing it. It was up to like 6 million. They had to pull it for something that had nothing to do with me, for TED. They had to pull it for 3 weeks, and it never gained traction again. It got stuck at that number, because you can never. Once something stops, I feel like in the algorithm, then that's what it is.
well,
right?
no one
Like,
really knows how to explain the algorithm or
No
what's
one-
really going on there. Or, you know, it's been written in so many ways by so many
Yeah.
people over the years that it's sort of it's its own thing. It's like Terminator 2. The machines have turned on now,
Yeah.
and it is what it is, and we're sort of all like at its mercy in
We
essence.
are.
But for sure of what it feeds, or what feeds the algorithm, is newness. So if you have a video that is new that gets on there, that is one of the pieces of what will deliver it into the endless stream of stuff.
Right.
So if that video disappears and then you just repost that same thing, well, it's lost one nugget of the, let's say, 10 or 20 or 100 things that send it into the stream.
The way I see it is
yeah.
that momentum's lost, right?
Yeah,
Once
well,
you lose
that would be
momentum,
like
you're-
the most
that's
simple way of-
Exactly.
yeah.
Like once the momentum is gone, to kind of rejig the system is impossible. What video? Okay, so let me ask you. I got a lot of questions with regards to politics, because, like I said to you at nauseum already, I'm not a big political person, but you are so good at explaining things and to like the layman's person. What do you think is going to happen with? Like, is there anything redeeming about the Democratic Party in your opinion? That's the first part.
No, it's so gone. It's ridiculous. I truly wish I could tell you that I wasn't screaming about this for years. This was so obvious. Like, I didn't know it was going to end in this specific. Well, by the way, I can't say it's going to end because
Do you think they're going to replace Biden?
I think it's, well, did you see George Clooney today came out against Joe Biden? My God, when you've lost George Clooney, who
No,
knows
I did not see that.
what the rest of the Facts of
Yes.
Life cast is going to say? You know what I mean? What's Joe going to say? It's like, I know you can get that reference because you're of a certain age.
Of course.
Everyone under 40
Facts
is
of
like,
Life.
Facts of Life. What the hell's that? Who's Tootie?
That is hilarious. I love that. That's such a great. That's such a great.
He was in
reference.
Facts of Life
Yes.
for 2 seasons. I think it was crazy at the end. They suddenly opened a candy factory or something, or a little coffee shop.
100%.
And
That
Mrs.
was his-
Garrett. And, okay.
Mrs. Garrett, Tootie,
She was gone at the end,
Blair.
and then she was replaced by Cloris Leachman.
Right.
But anyway,
Also Joe. Okay, anyway.
yeah, I could mostly talk about 80s sitcoms.
Yeah,
I would be
me
way,
too.
way more.
I can go head to head with you on this.
80s sitcoms or 80s pop culture is actually my natural green juice.
Oh, really?
That would be my real thing.
Do,
but
do you like Golden Girls? Just I know we're taking a total.
oh my God, is she kidding? Do I like Golden Girls?
That's my favorite of all time.
I mean, what do you want to do? What do you want to do here? I've seen every episode of the Golden Girls at least 300 times.
Oh no, me too.
Yeah, I cried on I believe it was May 18th or so, 1992, when it ended, when Dorothy married Uncle Lucas, played by Leslie Nielsen, of course, from Naked Gun.
Oh my God,
Yeah. Do you know who created the Golden Girls, by the way?
No, who?
Susan Harris. And do you know who Susan Harris's son is?
Please tell me.
Sam Harris.
Sam Harris's mom
Is Susan Harris, who is one of the most legendary TV producers of all time. She also created Soap, which was a little before our time. That was in the 70s.
Soap, yeah.
Soap had Billy Crystal. He was the first gay character on television ever. But at one time around 1991, she was the most powerful person in television. She had 4 shows in a row on NBC primetime Saturday night. She had Golden Girls, Nurses, which was a spin-off.
Yes.
That was about the hospital that was in Miami. And then they had Empty Nest, which was also a spin-off with Dr. Richard Mulligan.
The one that Blanche had a crush on, the neighbor.
Yeah.
Of course.
Harry Weston.
Yeah,
that was
Harry
his
Weston,
name.
yeah.
And then there was another show called Grand. That only lasted for a year or two. But she had 4 sitcoms from 8 to 10 p.m. NBC Saturday night. And she's done a million other things. And
Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still on the fact that Sam Harris's mom created probably not probably my favorite show of all time.
Yeah.
Like it was.
Yeah.
I still took. By the way,
what's your favorite episode or line? I could do this all day.
I could do this all day because I'll tell you something even more funny.
But it taught me a lot of things too. I mean, the Golden Girls was an incredible.
By the way, there's nothing funnier like Sophia and Dorothy, the relationship between the two. By the way,
who's your favorite character?
I think Sophia is my favorite,
Dorothy,
and Dorothy. I was
Dorothy
gonna say, it's kind of like it's kind of a tie between Dorothy and Sophia for sure. I never loved Rose that much. I don't know why Rose was.
You've always hated Betty White.
I never liked.
It's rare.
Nobody's
Nobody's ever said that before.
I don't hate Betty White.
Hatred of Betty White.
But she was just dumb and I didn't like that humor. I liked more Dorothy's sarcasm and Sophia. But by the way, do you know there's a podcast that just started that's like at the top of the charts? That's just two people riffing about the episodes of Golden Girls.
Oh, I got to talk to those guys.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. But what I was going to say to you is I still fall asleep if I can't fall asleep and I'm having a hard time, I watch an episode of the Golden Girls, and it kind of like calms me
I do
out.
cardio to the Golden Girls.
You
I'm probably
do?
the only person on earth that will keep me running. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
How did we just meet now, Dave?
It's crazy. But I'll tell you one of the great lines of the Golden Girls. You'll know the episode for sure.
Okay, I'll know every episode.
So there were 2 episodes that involved Blanche's brother, Clayton, who was gay.
Who's gay.
And in the first episode, he comes out, and it's a great episode, and she's struggling with it. And, Clayton, I don't know the actor's name, but the guy that played Clayton was kind of normal. He was just like a normal guy. He had a Southern accent. So he talked like this, but like he was like a normal guy. Now I'm watching this in like 1991 or something. So this is really sort of or 1989 something. Before forming any thoughts really about sexuality. But there was something about that I thought was interesting because he wasn't over the top flamboyant or whatever.
Feminine.
But the other episode that he was in is about 2 seasons later. I think it's season 6, where he brings his partner, Doug. Remember?
Yes,
and
I remember.
They're going to get married. And now think about that. So this is, I think, 1990 or 1991.
Yeah.
Saturday night, 8 p.m. on NBC. They have 2 gay guys. Doug is a like another normal guy, like
Yeah.
just normal, straight appearing guy. They're talking about getting married. Gay marriage wasn't legal for another 30 years, basically, but they didn't make an issue out of that. They talk about that two people can love each other and it's different. They still have, Blanche is still struggling with it.
Yeah.
Like it was real and honest and whatever. But the line to me that is like the most incredibly brilliant line, it's subversive and dirty and crazy. And the fact that this even got past the censors is amazing to me. Blanche says, I don't understand. I know you love this guy, but why do you have to marry him? And Clayton says, well, I'd do anything for Doug, and he'd bend over backwards for me.
I remember that line.
And it's like, think about that joke.
Oh
think
my
about that
God.
joke. Like it's actually hilarious.
It's hilarious.
And then if you even look at sitcoms 30 years later, Modern Family, which I actually didn't watch Modern Family, but I know that there was a gay couple in it.
Yeah.
The gay couple in Modern Family, supposedly, one of the guys, I think of the fat guy, had a fear of public displays of affection. And that's how
Yeah.
they wrote in, oh, we're just not going to have gays either talk about sex
Yeah.
or affection or anything else. And that was 30 years later,
so
where the
interesting.
Golden Girls did that back then. And by the way, there's also an episode of the Golden Girls when Stan's cousin Magda comes from former Soviet
Yeah.
Union. And Dorothy at a bookstore at the end is telling her about classical liberalism. And all of the great things about America.
I totally remember all of those episodes. By the way, you did a great Clayton.
I'd do anything
yeah.
for Doug.
That's
And
a
he'd bend
great-
over backwards for me.
And then by the
Yeah.
way, that was the last line in the show, and then they went to the music.
yeah,
By the way,
yeah.
I can't believe you love.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then the fact that Leslie Nielsen married Dorothy at the end. Leslie Nielsen, who to me, Naked Gun is the funniest movie of all time.
So funny.
And I loved him. So he turned out to be in those two final episodes. And by the way, the show got better and better each season.
Better and better.
In season 7, it was the most bawdy and ridiculous, and their shoulder pads were bigger and the hair
Yeah.
were bigger and everything else. But it was more over the top and it was more biting. But it was just. Yeah.
But by the way, it was pushing the envelope with everything, like
Yeah.
even the Blanche and the sexual innuendos
Oh, yeah.
constantly. Like what all of Dorothy's jokes to her, like
Yeah.
are completely. They wouldn't have that on TV now, even.
Yeah. It was way ahead of its time.
It was way ahead of its
They were
time.
4 incredible actresses. The writing was amazing. And,
Oh my God, I also love Frasier. By the way, I
Yeah.
love Niles. And
Didn't really like
you
Frasier.
didn't like Frasier.
Found it
I
a
love
little
Frasier.
too hoity-toity.
But that was the funny part, that Niles was such a that they were
Yeah.
so hoity-toity. It made it funny.
Yeah.
But Golden Girls, to me, to this day, is the best sitcom of all time.
I will tell you a very underrated episode of The Golden Girls.
Okay,
that
tell
nobody,
me.
when people think of like the classic episodes, it's not thought of that. Season 7, so the last season episode. It's
God,
either
you-
episode 12 or 13. It's called From Here to the Pharmacy, where Blanche,
The
guy,
condoms?
the guy, no, not condoms. That also happens at a pharmacy, so that's good. Blanche, a guy from the Persian Gulf War, comes back and says that he's been dating Blanche, but she can't remember who he is, and it turns out to be his pharmacist or her pharmacist. And
Wait, hold on. What
Yeah.
episode is this?
It's called From Here to the Pharmacy. I believe it's season 7, episode
Okay.
12. It's either 12 or 13. And
my
a
God,
guy
listen to you.
comes back. He had just served in the Gulf War,
Yeah.
which had just taken
Yeah.
place. And he now shows up, dressed as a soldier. And he shows up at the door and he's like, I've missed you, Blanche. And she can't remember who he is. And it turns out that they had been dating, but he was the pharmacist, Bill.
Oh my God, I do remember this.
Yeah. And there's just a couple phenomenal, the first 5 minutes of that episode is just joke after joke after joke after joke. It's amazing. It was actually written by Jimmy Valet, who is Bill Maher's best friend. Boy,
Well,
now I'm really dropping Hollywood stuff.
Holy shit. How do you remember? You even know like episode, season. I thought I was a fan, and my sister and my mom, like this is all we talk about is the Golden Girls.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of crazy. I had no idea that you were such a fan.
There you go.
That's not on your bio, by the way.
Sam Harris has, people give his mom Golden Girls things all the time, or she had all this stuff.
Oh my
So I have a
God.
set of Golden Girls shot glasses that were given by Susan Harris. That's pretty
Really?
good. Yeah.
Wow.
I have Rue McClanahan's teeth. That was a
okay,
joke.
do
That
you?
was a joke.
By the way, like
That would be pretty great,
That
though.
would be amazing.
Yeah, David, my husband, tried to buy me one of her gowns for my birthday once. Not to wear, but just it would
Just
be
to
so
have-
cool because she had an estate sale, Rue McClanahan's estate sale, and they had like all of her crazy dresses. Remember her red dress?
I remember all the dresses,
from
yes.
George's
Yeah.
funeral and all that stuff. And there was one that it was going to be like $3,000 for some like forgettable something, and he almost did it, but then someone bought it instead.
Really? So
Yeah.
you
And I knew somebody at one time who was a Hollywood like backstage guy who had one of their chairs from the lanai.
Oh my,
And
from the lanai.
and I was trying to get it. I don't remember what happened to that.
Wow, this
Yeah.
is amazing that
Yeah.
you are such a fan. By the way, the fact that they always use the word lanai
Yeah, the
always
lanai.
made me laugh.
Well, I now call our outdoor area the lanai.
So do
People are
I.
like, I'm like, bring it out to the lanai. Everyone's like, what the hell's a lanai?
By the way,
Yeah.
I do it all the time
This
to
is
my
sort
husband.
of a lanai. That's the
That's
lanai.
the lanai. I say it
Yeah.
all the time, and
Yeah.
people who like know Golden Girls
Yeah.
like laugh and like smile.
Yeah.
But like it's kind of like the family truckster from the Vacation movies,
Yeah.
you know, like the Griswold.
Yeah,
But if you get the reference, you get it. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
By the way, is your husband? What does he do?
He takes care of the kids. He is full-time.
How many kids do you have?
Daddy, 2 kids.
Two?
Two kids, based in essence twins, but it was 2 surrogates
Oh.
within 2 months of each other, so twins.
Oh, how
for all
old are
that.
they?
Justin is the oldest. He'll be 2 in a couple weeks, and then Luke will be 2 months
Oh,
after
you
him.
have like babies.
Babies. Yeah.
Oh my
They're like little
gosh.
people, sort of like Oompa Loompas, and they
Yeah.
you feed them and spin them around.
And then put them to sleep for a bit.
Yeah.
And, I didn't know you had 2 little babies.
Yeah.
Wow. How
Yeah.
long have you been married to? Who's your husband? What's his name?
His name's David also, which
That's what I
is
thought you said.
people think that's spectacular and
That's
hilarious.
David and
We got
David?
married in 2015. We've been together since like 2011 or something, which is
Wow.
like that's 13.
That's a
Let's say we've
lifetime.
been together 13 years. That's like 30 gay years or something.
I was going to say you're probably the longest gay couple, like the longest amount of time spent together.
I think there are others in history.
Really?
probably.
Where?
Yeah.
Who?
Not in this town.
With your memory.
No,
bank,
no,
name
there-
me one.
No. Well, I know people personally that have been together for. I know couples that have
30?
been together for 40 years. But like, yes, in like
In LA, you know,
in
it is
LA, yeah, LA. Everyone
Yeah.
here's on meth. You
No,
know.
exactly. Everyone
Yeah.
here in LA, they don't stay anywhere for
Yeah.
too long. Okay, let's get back to the politics because I have a million questions. Or like, okay, there's nothing redeeming.
Really?
about-
Can't we do more on the Golden Girls?
I
Like,
would.
was-
I would actually like to do a whole episode. I would like if I would have known that you were such a Golden Girl person, I
Yeah.
would have had rapid fire questions for
Oh
you.
my God.
And I would have
There's
asked
nothing
you like 30.
you could get past me.
Well, I didn't. Of course not. I mean,
Yeah.
you know the episode in the season with the line. Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
no!
oh.
I have to
We
go
do?
To,
Why?
I have to go to Dr. Drew, and you don't want to cross Dr. Drew. He'll-
I'll cross Dr. Drew. You can tell him I'll cross him happily.
Yeah.
What do you mean? How far is it? I
Yeah.
haven't even gotten started
it's
with
in
Dave.
Pasadena. Yeah.
This is making me really upset.
I'll do it again.
Thank
We'll
you.
do it again. We'll do it again. Or you come to Miami. You ever come to
yeah,
Miami?
I do, but like
Come to Miami. We'll drink
drink-
Slate.
I do.
And we'll watch the Golden Girls.
Well, that'd be a great
Yeah.
day. God, too bad you're gay. You're like a perfect person
Yeah.
for me. I love you.
Well, that's how it
The go-
works.
I mean, it's
You know.
always like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I mean, my husband wouldn't love hearing that, but that's besides the point. But
No,
I'm
no,
telling
good. You should find the straight guy who could watch the Golden
who could
Girls
watch
with
Golden
you. That
Girls
would be great.
on
Yeah,
a
yeah.
marathon.
Yeah.
That's a whole other story and a whole other episode. But listen, okay. So now that I have like 10 minutes, I want to
Yeah.
ask you about politics.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to Biden.
We'll try to do 'em quick.
We saw the whole fiasco that happened. Even the
Yeah.
Democrats were like mortified of
Yeah.
his performance. Isn't that isn't that kind of elderly abuse to
Yes,
have
it's
someone
complete
like
elderly
that?
abuse. It's complete elder abuse. I was with, I always tell the story, but I had 2 grandmothers who both had dementia into Alzheimer's
Right.
sort of things at the end. One in particular, because I was doing stand-up in New York, I would work at night, so I had daytimes to be around her and take her to the doctor and the geriatric doctors and the cognitive things and all that. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. The stiffness, the awkwardness, the slurring, the confusion, the way he uses certain phrases to kind of reset things in his brain, all of the stuff. It's there. Everyone knows it. I'm not a doctor. Everyone knows it. But the thing is, everyone has known it for way, way longer than the last 2 weeks.
Right.
I did a video the day he was sworn in. We're holding it. We haven't reposted it yet. But the day he was sworn in, I said I would retire if he makes it to the end of, if he's sworn in a second time.
Right.
Because that is how confident I've been the entire time that this sham would fall apart. And now we are seeing it. Usually what happens with the media is they lie about something. There is just some lie, whether it's Russia hoax or it's COVID things or something. And they lie for a while and then the truth eventually catches
Yeah.
up. What happened on debate night is the first time I've ever seen this with the mainstream media, where it was so patently obvious what was happening to him, the gaping mouth, the confusion, the inability to finish a sentence. Even Jake Tapper was trying to help him and it didn't really work. Trump, who was so controlled that night.
I couldn't believe
Trump's
it.
best line though was, I'm not sure he knew what he said. And because he didn't mean it like screw old man. He meant legitimately like, this is a problem, people.
I couldn't believe even
yeah.
he didn't even take shots.
Yeah.
Because it was like not even worthy of taking shots from. It was unbelievable.
That's exact. And what I have been really trying to push Trump on my show for the last 6 months is be that person now. we know you can do the other
Yeah.
thing. We know you can make up names. We
Totally.
know you can do all the stuff. But be that person now. Let them make mistakes. Be more statesman-like, because you've got all the other pieces. But putting that aside for a sec, what happened that night was so starkly obvious to everyone. It was like being smashed in the face with a
Totally.
cast iron pan, that now the lies have caught up with real time. And that's why it feels so out of control the last couple of days. That's why literally I'm doing cardio at 5:30 in the morning this morning watching CNN, which I never watch.
Not Golden Girls?
Well, it was at the gym.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
you're
you're
at the mercy of the thing
Of
there.
the gym TV.
No, at home, Golden Girls. Can I walk into a gym at the hotel and be like, please put on the Golden Girls?
Here's my DVD
Yeah,
from
do you have
1990.
Lifetime? Like, let's go. Or
Lifetime.
TV Land. I always hated
TV
that.
Land.
I always hated that because I used to watch Golden Girls when it was on Lifetime, and then
Yes.
every commercial was like Lifetime television for women, and I'm like, I'm not a woman. Yes, I'm wearing a dress right now while I'm watching this, but fine. But it
Exactly.
still doesn't make me a woman.
Even though my husband didn't get me the Rue McClanahan dress that I really wanted to wear. Yes.
And it was this off the shoulder thing.
Oh, I'm sure it's beautiful.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that's the struggle that they're having right now. Because this morning I saw the headline was George Clooney bails on Joe Biden. And it's like now everything is bursting forth at once. So to get to probably your next question, my guess is this thing cannot hold for the next 4 months. It broke down way too early. If it was going to break down, they wanted it to break down right after the election. And then basically he's just the patsy. And now we just kind of usher in Kamala or something. But it's breaking down way too early. And yes, she's awful. But you have to remember the Democrats, all of them, they're collectivists by nature. So really, whether it's Joe Biden or whether it's Kamala Harris largely doesn't matter because they're not really running the show.
Right.
Biden obviously has not really been running the show, and I don't think Kamala would be running the show. That's a much bigger problem for America and what's happened to the presidency and the way we're viewed in the world. But I don't think in terms of policy and how the country will operate, if it's Biden or Kamala, probably does not matter that much.
Well, I don't think anyone expected her to be so unlikable. She's more unlikable than Hillary Clinton.
I mean, I
by a
thought she
long
was going to
shot.
be pretty bad, but this is
abysmal.
off the charts.
This is
Yeah.
off the charts. I
Yeah.
mean, completely disconnected, completely doesn't resonate with anybody. Like, I don't know anybody who's like, oh, I like that woman.
Yeah.
She's
Sunny Hostin likes her, I think.
well, okay, then she can have her.
Yeah.
Because I think she's atrocious, terrible. But in a way, it's a kind of a good thing that's happened. I feel for the Democrats because at least now they have a chance of replacing him with someone who has a chance. Because at this stage, they don't have a chance at all. However, I don't think they're going to be replacing him anytime soon.
Well, the thing is that unless he dies or they 25th Amendment him, which there's no way they're going to do, you can't force him out. Even if it's known.
Can't?
Well, there's the mechanism to remove him is 25th Amendment, that he's been incapacitated or whatever the specifics are on that. But they're not going to do that.
But why
That's
would they
the
keep
mechanism.
him? What I don't understand is like, how could they?
Well, the power of the
him?
incumbency and that he already beat Trump once. I'm not making that argument. I'm just
No,
saying
I know.
like, what might
I want
be
you
in
to
their
explain
head.
the basics because
Yeah.
how could you keep someone when they show themselves like this?
Well, that's
to
why
be
I'm saying my guess is
incapacitated?
he's going to be pushed out one way or another because the way you can feel the system turning on him. The New York Times is writing about it now. Washington Post, George Clooney, etc. Van Jones. So eventually, because this is now still 3-4 months from November, what will happen is the pressure will keep bearing, and then ultimately, who will really go down fighting for him? Well, his wife, who I think is basically the Emperor Palpatine of this story. I mean, she's like the driving evil, unlimited power source, and then the crackhead son. So if at the end it's the entire world versus wannabe Palpatine, the crackhead son, and a man with dementia, I'm pretty sure they're not going to win this thing.
But why would she allow him to
because she wants power. She wants power. There's no other way to describe it. Like, it's disgusting. It is elder abuse. And I think there's probably a very special place in hell for her. And hopefully when the story ultimately breaks, because you can't hide, he's obviously on medication. People know, somebody knows, whether it's a Secret Service guy that has had to literally carry him to bed, or it's the doc. The thing can't hold forever. Lies. But that's what I mean about the lies. Eventually, it happens. The system lies for a while or ignores for a while, but then eventually it matches up, right? So eventually it will happen. And someone at the White House is going to jump ship and be like, you know what, I can't hide this anymore. Actually, they've been injecting him with stuff before the debates. Like, it's just so...
What could they be injecting him with? Like adrenaline? Like, what are they giving him?
Mean, God, don't they grind up children and they make him smoke it or something?
I know, that's what I heard. That's a conspiracy.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I'm just kidding.
They drink the blood.
I don't know
or
what
something.
who knows? I mean, there's all sorts of known medications for cognitive problems, and then there's obviously there's adrenaline, there's a million different things.
But even when they did stuff
Adderall, like there's stuff.
they could do. Yeah, I guess that's true. But like, I've seen. I'm sure
Crack.
That could be one. But even I've seen things when they were when he was like reading speeches, and he'll say things like period, next paragraph,
end of
comma, end of quote, and nobody says anything.
I always say on my show, so I do the show off the top of my head, except for the outline of the show. So
Yeah.
Phoenix and I come up with an outline in the morning. So the outline that's running on the teleprompter, and
Yeah.
that's how I'm able to look in camera, because we have a screen that I can look through, and that's how they do it on television, right?
Right.
The way that we do it is I just have an outline. Like it tells me what
Yeah,
what clip I'm throwing to. Then I speak off the top of my head. Sometimes I screw up things on the prompter. Of course, that's just, it's hard to read and think at the same time.
100%,
Sometimes he might have got a phone call, so the prompter isn't moving fast enough. Like there's a million. See, I'm throwing him under the bus right there.
Yeah, you're really a good, nice
You're doing
boss.
fine. You're doing fine.
You're
You
a
can
great
still have
boss.
lunch today. Anyway, the point is, like, I can give a very long leeway and runway for people screwing up things in public speaking
Right.
and everything else.
Even Phoenix.
He does not, even Phoenix, he does not know what he is doing.
I know.
That Stephanopoulos interview was worse than the debate. Stephanopoulos basically had 22 minutes to repeatedly say to him, "Are you alive? Are you alive? Is anyone in there? Anything happening over there?" And he could not complete a sentence. So we're in a weird time, sister.
Horrible time. Okay,
Thank God I'm drinking hydrated hydrogen water.
Hydrogen water by Life Force Water. Thank you for the water, guys. I was going to say something else. I know you got to wrap it.
Yes.
One more thing. Donald Trump. Can we just talk about Donald
Yeah.
Trump for 2 seconds?
Sure.
So are you a fan of Donald Trump? You had him on
Yeah,
the show.
I
You
basically
talked
like him. I'm friends with Junior, and I'm friends with Ivanka and Jared, and I think they're absolutely lovely people. And I've known Junior even before politics and all that. I met Trump at Mar-a-Lago. I've interviewed him. I think he is a good, decent man. I know you care about the future of the Jewish people. He has 3.
Don't you?
No, I do,
Yeah.
but I was
I
putting
know,
this on you for a
I'm
moment
kidding, yeah.
for whatever hesitation anyone listening to this might have if you're Jewish, like because of all the insane things they say about him. Like his grandchildren are Jewish. His daughter is Jewish, Orthodox Jew.
Yeah.
I've been to their place. Like these are good human beings. I think if he can control a little bit of the craziness, that will be good. But the system's going to throw everything they have at him now. And my one fear at the moment is that it's feeling a little too like overconfidence, meaning we're all like watching the Democrat thing fall apart, but the system figures out ways to recalibrate,
100%.
So we got a long time to November.
So how about like RFK? What do you think of him?
I like him a lot. He is a decent human being. Again, I've interviewed him. We've had dinners and lunches together. We've done live events together. He is a good man. I disagree with him on some things.
Right.
Where I would be considered more conservative, I suppose, or Republican on some things. But those are just little policy things. Like the heart of the man and everything else is incredible. But look, as I said, the day he announced, he will not be a Democrat by the end of this thing. And he was not a Democrat like 2 months later. And now we're all seeing the true evil of the Democrat Party. So unfortunately, he's not going to be on all the ballots, most likely. And it's not, they kept him out of the debate. So.
But does he have is he going to take votes from, let's say,
I think he probably ends up taking more from Biden, which for my position would be good, so that Trump becomes president. You can probably argue it either way. There'll be a certain set of Trump people that are really still pissed at Trump over vaxes, and he's particularly good on that.
Yeah.
So they might, but I think it'll be more that it will be more like the average LA liberal who is not a complete psycho woke maniac, who is like, I can't vote for Biden anymore because of the border and post 10/7 and all the other nonsense and dementia, by the way. And they'll just be like, but I can't vote for Trump, or I won't feel good if I vote for Trump, or my wife's never going to blow me again if I vote for Trump. So, which is a lot of it, by the way, but that's a whole other topic.
We could do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah. I am a firm believer. It's the blowjob theory. I've put this theory out there.
Did you? It's a real theory?
Yes, that there are a huge percentage of men like blowjobs. This doesn't matter gay or straight. Everyone likes a blowjob. And some people like giving them to, but everyone likes getting a blowjob, right? And if you know that if your wife knows you vote for Donald Trump, you're getting 10% less blowjobs, or your blowjobs are cut off in half, you are not going to do it. And I think that that's been a huge, huge problem because women tend to be a little more liberal or lefty, or have an aversion to Trump, or
100. That is such a funny.
The blowjob
I love that
theory. You can use it. We're
going to clip that. Okay, Chelsea, we're clipping that blowjob theory. That's That's a really good clip.
Clip in the blowjob
Clip
theory.
in the blowjob theory. I know. I have so many questions.
All right,
Phoenix,
1 minute.
what are we
1
gonna
minute.
do?
1 minute. We really have to go. It's Dr. Drew.
Okay, fine.
He's
Dr. Drew's going to be
you
very
can't cross
upset.
him, you know?
I know. He gets to be very evil if we're late. Okay. Well, okay. So I asked you a little bit about Biden, a little bit about Trump, RFK. I asked you about Kamala. We kind of talked about. Oh, Gavin Newsom. Would they? Do you think
He's evil. He's actually the devil incarnate.
No, I think
you should leave this state immediately. You have a lovely house. I like this operation. It's a nice day here in LA, but you must leave this state. He's coming to kill all of you.
No, and I think that they're going to. I heard that they're going to replace. If they do replace Biden, it's going to be with Gavin Newsom. Do you think that's accurate?
Again, they don't really have the mechanism for it to be anyone but Kamala. But I wouldn't put anything past these people.
Okay.
If they have to figure out a way to throw the black female under the bus, they will gladly do it.
You're fun. Okay. Okay. I know. I gotta go.
Yeah.
Okay. When can we do this? Can we do maybe a 4-part
Yeah,
series
come
or something?
to Miami and we'll do it in my place, and then we'll come back. I don't know how often I can come back here.
I know you
I find
refuse
it quite,
to come back.
I find it quite grueling.
I know.
Although your mall here is nice, the Century City. Mall
It's a
is
good.
Yeah,
it's
that
a good,
Italy is just
It's
fantastic.
great. Did you eat there at all?
I had some meatballs and the fish there. My God,
You had some fish there.
I didn't
too?
have the fish, but it just looks amazing. Like it looks
I know.
like Hollywood fish.
You've never seen Hollywood fish at the Italy. You're so
All right, I have to
funny.
go. I have to go.
Okay, fine, David. Okay. Well, I guess you can come back. Bye. Have a nice
Okay.
time at Dr. Drew.
All right, see ya.
And see you. Take care, and
bye.
we'll talk later.
All right.
Follow Dave Rubin. He's amazing. Bye.